You might think that history is built on great names, architectural wonders, and family names carved in stone. You admire the houses that descendants are proud of, gaze at the sturdy walls, the cool colonnades, the smooth facades, as if they appeared from the earth by the will of someone's genius or taste. You do not see the cracks, neither in the stone nor in the people whose hands erected these buildings. But behind every stone, behind every wall, there is blood, sweat, and pain from those whose names you will never know. The black enslaved mason did not leave his autograph on the foundation, did not get his portrait hung in the parlor, and was never invited to walk the freshly finished marble stairs. His life was a long string of sleepless nights, aches, and cries that have long since blended into the wind. His labor is eternal, his face forgotten, his voice silenced. But before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which city you are watching from and what time it is for you. I am genuinely curious to see who has joined us. Now, make yourself comfortable. We are about to begin. You wake up before the rooster crows, not because you choose to, of course, but because the overseer does. His boots hit the ground like judgment itself, and if you are still horizontal, by the time he reaches your shanty, your back will remember it for days. You open your eyes to the inside of a one-room cabin that was not built to last, but still, somehow, continues to stand. The roof leaks. The walls breathe in the cold. The air smells of damp wood, old sweat, and the slow rot of dreams that were never yours to begin with. Your body groans, not out of tiredness, which has long since become your default state, but because it is cold, and because your muscles are sore, and because your hands, rough and cracked and always trembling just a little, already know what they will be asked to do today. You rise not with resolve, nor defiance, nor even hope. You rise because that is the one thing left that no one has to beat into you anymore. You are not a builder. You are not a craftsman. You are not an artisan. You are a slave who lays stone. There is a difference. The master may call you a mason to his guests when he is feeling generous, perhaps during dinner conversations where the roast is tender and the wine flows, but he will never call you a man. You are hands. You are labor. You are muscle and sweat and silence. The only thing you are allowed to shape is rock, and even that never on your own terms. Today, you are assigned to the upper quarry. That means broken paths and steeper climbs. It means bigger stones and fewer breaks. You will not eat until the sun is high enough to remind your back that it, too, is burning. You wear a shirt that used to belong to someone else, and before that, probably to someone else again. It is more whole than fabric. Your pants are held up by a piece of rope. You have shoes, though calling them shoes is like calling a shackle jewelry. Technically true, emotionally dishonest. You pick up your tools, a chisel that has bitten through more stone than you have eaten meals, and a hammer that seems heavier each time you lift it. Not because it has changed, but because you have. The cart beside you creaks under the weight of empty hope and wooden wheels. You know how many steps it takes to reach the quarry. You know every tree, every root, every loose stone along the way. They are the landmarks of your captivity, the geography of a life built entirely around repetition and exhaustion. By the time you reach the site, the sun has begun its slow rise, golden and indifferent. You do not get to marvel at its beauty. You are not here for beauty. You are here to break stone. So you do. You start by striking the edge of a limestone block that weighs more than 3 men combined. The sound is familiar, like the world sighing through gritted teeth. You measure and cut, not because you were taught, but because your body learned under duress. You learned because not learning meant punishment. You learned because your mistakes echo in bruises, not corrections. Other men work beside you, some older, some barely grown. None of you talk. Talking wastes air. Talking risks punishment. Talking reminds you that you have a name, a mind, a soul. You cannot afford such luxuries here. The only music is the rhythmic thud of hammers, the brittle crack of rocks splitting, and the occasional bark of an overseer who considers shouting to be the same as management. Your hands bleed, but that is normal. If they did not, you would worry something was wrong. The dust clings to your skin, burrows into the corners of your eyes, coats your tongue in grit. It dulls your thoughts, which is not entirely a bad thing. Thinking is dangerous. Thinking leads to longing. Longing leads to desperation. Desperation leads to escape attempts. And escape attempts lead to stories whispered in the night about feet cut off and bodies hung from trees. The cart fills slowly, stone by stone. Each one bears your sweat and some part of your spirit. You do not remember how many years you have been doing this. You measure time by scars and seasons now, by the number of overseers who have come and gone, by the children who were born, grew, and were sold away before they reached their 10th birthday. Time here is not linear, it is circular, like the wheels of the cart, always grinding, never arriving. You will work until the sun is directly overhead, and then be allowed to eat something that might be called food. After that, you will work again. The same stones, the same cart, the same dust, until darkness. And then you will walk back along the same path, past the same roots and rocks, into the same leaking cabin, and sleep on the same thin mat. And tomorrow you will do it again, not because you want to, but because you are a slave. And the stone does not ask questions, it only waits. You wake again, as you always do, with the distinct sensation that sleep is not a relief, but an interruption. Each morning, it feels as if someone presses a heavy stone onto your chest, pinning you down until you remember that rising is not an option, but an obligation. You drag yourself upright, noticing, with a strange detachment, that your knees ache before you have even left your pallet. The ache is an old friend, one you never invited, but who refuses to leave. You move quietly in the pre dawn hush, careful not to disturb the others. The children, if you can call them children, when their hands are already as calloused as yours, curl together for warmth in the next corner. Their dreams, if they have any left, are surely small and practical. You envy them sometimes for being able to lose themselves in sleep so easily. You, on the other hand, often lie awake listening to the sounds of the night, the rustle of rats, the creak of timbers, the distant laughter of those who own the land. Breakfast, if it deserves the name, is the same as always, a bowl of corn mush, tasteless and heavy in your mouth. You eat quickly, knowing that food is not for enjoyment, but for function. Your body is an instrument, a tool to be fueled, not a being to be cherished. The overseer arrives, boots thumping, voice slicing through the morning like a whip. He does not shout today. Perhaps he is tired, or perhaps he simply knows you no longer need reminding. The walk to the work site is the only time you can almost pretend to be free. For a few short minutes, you are simply a man walking beneath the sky. You try to hold on to this illusion, but it never lasts. The fields are empty, but you see them as they once were, filled with cotton or tobacco, the air humming with insect song, and the low murmur of human voices. Now, only the sound of your feet and the crunch of gravel remain. Every step measures a little more of your pain, a mile marked not in distance, but in effort. At the quarry, you begin the day's labor. The sun is not yet up, but already you feel sweat bead at your hairline. Your shirt, stiff with yesterday's dust and grime, chafes against your skin. You pick up your hammer and chisel, tools so familiar they might as well be extensions of your own body. Each strike is met with the stubborn resistance of stone. Each strike is an argument you will never win. You lift blocks with a team of other men, your breath coming hard and fast as you maneuver each stone onto the waiting cart. The blocks are heavy, some weigh as much as a mule, and more than a man ought to carry. You know this because you have carried them for years. Your back bends under their weight. Your shoulders scream in protest, but you ignore them. Pain is not a signal here. It is background noise, as constant as the drone of cicadas in the summer heat. Your hands tell the story of your life. Each finger bears a different scar, a testament to accidents both recent and long past. Sometimes, when you are alone, you trace these scars with your thumb, as if reading a map of everywhere you have ever been. The deepest one runs across your palm, a pale line where you slipped with the chisel and drew more blood than you thought possible. The overseer had not even looked up when it happened. You wrapped your hand in a filthy rag and kept working. There was no other choice. Around you, the others work in silence. Words are precious here. Conversation is a luxury you cannot afford, not with the overseer watching. Even when he turns his back, no one dares to laugh or joke. There is no camaraderie, only the shared understanding that each man must carry his own burden or be crushed beneath it. The only sounds are the grunts of exertion, the ring of metal on stone, and the distant cawing of crows. At midday, you are granted a short break. You sit on the edge of the quarry, legs dangling, and stare at your hands. They are filthy, stained gray and brown, the nails split and ragged. You flex your fingers, feeling the tendons strain. The sun blazes overhead, painting the landscape in harsh, unforgiving light. You eat another bowl of mush, barely tasting it. The food is hot from the sun, not the fire. In the distance, you see the master's house rising above the fields, a grand structure made beautiful by the very stones you haul day after day. You know every block in that house. You know which ones are cracked inside, which ones sit slightly off kilter, hidden behind plaster. You know, because you set them there, your sweat and blood mixed into the mortar. The house is a monument to someone else's comfort, built on the backs of those who will never cross its threshold except to serve. The break ends. The overseer returns, waving his hat in the air. You rise, joints popping, and return to work. The afternoon stretches before you, long and punishing. The sun seems to hang in the sky forever, refusing to set. You work until your arms shake, until your legs tremble, until your vision blurs with exhaustion. The world narrows to the rhythm of your breath, the thud of stone, the sting of dust in your eyes. You wonder sometimes how many more days you can do this. You try to remember a time before the pain, but it is a distant memory, faded by years of repetition. You measure your life in stones moved, scars earned, lashes received. You think about running, about slipping away into the woods, but you know the stories, men who tried and failed, who were brought back broken, or who simply disappeared. When dusk finally falls, you load the last stone onto the cart and follow the others back to the quarters. The path is familiar, your feet finding every rut and dip without thought. Your mind is numb. Your body aches in a dozen places, but you are still moving. That, you suppose, is the closest thing to victory you will know. You eat your supper, another bowl of mush, another swallow of thin water. You lie down in the darkness, listening to the quiet breathing of those around you. The pain in your body settles in, deep and stubborn, an old enemy you can never defeat. You close your eyes and wait for sleep to come, knowing that in a few short hours, the cycle will begin again. And so you measure your days in miles of pain, each one longer than the last, each one a reminder that the road you travel is not of your choosing. It is a path built from the stones you carry, a path that leads nowhere, but one you must walk all the same. Because here, your suffering is not unique. It is just another fact, as unremarkable as the sunrise, as common as the dust beneath your feet. Here, pain is the price of survival, and endurance the only freedom left to you. Tomorrow, you will rise again, and the mile will measure you, whether you wish it or not. You rise again, not because you want to, but because there is no other choice. The morning comes as it always does, cold and indifferent, a cruel reminder that life continues regardless of whether you are ready or not. You drag your stiff body out of bed, your limbs reluctant, your joints swollen and sore from the constant strain. You've become accustomed to this aching, to the feeling of muscles pulled too tight, to the deep, gnawing pain in your bones. It is a pain that stays with you, persistent, insistent, a companion that you never asked for, but which never leaves. Today is different, though. Today, the Master has ordered something special. You do not know what it is at first, but the overseer's voice, sharp and commanding, leaves no room for questions. He is standing in front of the small group of slaves that has gathered, his face a mask of disdain and authority. His eyes flick over each of you, calculating, as if you are nothing more than tools to be wielded and discarded at his whim. You will work until dusk, he announces, his voice carrying across the quiet morning air. The master requires a new structure to be finished. He wants it done quickly. The words quickly and master do not sit well in your mind. You have seen how he demands, how he treats his property with the same care and concern as he would treat a broken tool. The urgency in the overseer's voice is not a request, it is a demand, and you know what that means. It means more pain, more strain, more hours beneath the unforgiving sun, hammering away at stone that does not care about your suffering. The others around you are silent, as they always are when the master makes a request. No one speaks, no one protests. It would be foolish to even think of it. To object would mean punishment, punishment that would stretch far beyond the day's labor. You all know the price of defiance, the price of standing against a man who controls your very existence. The work site is a flurry of activity as the order is passed down. The master's request is not just a vague demand, it is a command that requires all of you to give more than you have to spare. You see the overseer's sharp eyes scanning the group, making sure each man is pulling his weight. The air thickens with tension, but it is not the kind of tension that builds toward any kind of release. It is the kind of tension that only tightens with time, suffocating and unrelenting. As you make your way to the quarry, the burden of the task weighs heavier with each step. The stones you will need to cut are larger today, thicker, more unforgiving. The hammer feels even heavier in your hands than usual, as if it too knows the extra weight you must bear. You wish for even a moment's reprieve, a break from the endless toil, but the work does not stop. The master's structure must be finished, and there is no one to stop the clock. The stones are not just stones today. They are obstacles, each one larger than the last, each one heavier, sharper. You strike them with your chisel and hammer, each blow ringing out in the still morning air like a death knell. The stones resist you, as they always do, as if they are sentient and aware of your struggle. Each strike is met with the grinding sound of your tools biting into the rock, but it doesn't make the task any easier. You sweat and breathe heavily, the dust swirling around you like an insidious cloud. The sun climbs higher, but you are unaware of its progress. It is no longer the sun you fear. It is the weight of the stones, the endless task that will never end, no matter how hard you work. Your hands bleed as you work, the rough stones scraping against your skin. The blood mingles with the dust, making your hands a grim mosaic of life and labor. You can feel your body weakening, the muscles in your arms trembling with the strain. The stones do not care. The master does not care. No one cares except for the overseer, whose eyes watch at every move, making sure that no one slacks off, that no one takes even a second to breathe. The noise around you is deafening. The sound of hammers striking stone fills the air, each blow a brutal reminder of your place. The other men work in silence, their faces hollow with exhaustion. You wonder, for a brief moment, how many of them are thinking the same thing you are, that this will never end, that no matter how many stones you move, how many walls you build, you will never be free. The reality of your existence settles in, heavy and suffocating. You are here to serve, to labor, to build a world for others, while your own is eroded bit by bit, day by day. The master's structure takes shape slowly with each stone you place. You know it will be magnificent when it is finished, a grand monument to the master's wealth and power. But as you look at it, all you see is the toll it has taken on you, on all of you. You know that when it is finished, it will be admired by those who do not understand the cost. They will see the polished surface, the elegant columns, the grand archways, but they will not see the blood, the sweat, the pain that went into creating it. To them, it will be a symbol of triumph. To you, it will be a reminder of your own defeat. The day drags on, the hours stretching longer with each passing moment. You no longer feel the sun on your skin, only the ache in your muscles, the weight of the stones, the unyielding march of time. You work with a kind of numbness, your movements automatic, your mind a blur of exhaustion and pain. You do not look up. You do not think. You simply work. The master's order is your only reality now, and you obey without question. As the sun begins to set, you feel the familiar relief of the end of the day. But there is no real relief. You know that tomorrow the work will begin again, just as it did today, just as it always will. The master's request will never stop. His demands will never cease, and you will continue to toil, to labor, to build the world he wants, while your own crumbles beneath the weight of your labor. Tomorrow you will rise again, and the stones will wait for you, as they always do. They will never stop, neither will you. You begin to notice the cracks, first in the stone, then in yourself. At the start, it was only the blocks that broke under pressure, a jagged line running through the limestone where your chisel struck at the wrong angle, where the fault inside was invisible until the day's labor split it wide open. But now you see it in your hands, too. The skin, once dark and whole, is now a tapestry of rough patches, angry red abrasions, and scabbed over wounds. Your fingernails have become stunted, black at the edges, where stone dust collects and never truly washes away. Your palms are crisscrossed with scars, some white and ancient, others fresh, still raw from where you scraped them against a sharp corner or crushed them under an errant rock. The master's house grows taller by the week, and you watch it rise as you whittle away. The others glance at the walls sometimes, eyes narrowed, not with pride but suspicion. You know there are flaws hidden behind the mortar, cracks that have been hastily patched with more mud, mistakes no one will see until years later, if anyone bothers to look. It does not matter to the master. It does not matter to the overseer. But you see the pattern. Every day you build, another part of you crumbles. There is a kind of irony in this endless construction, this ceaseless piling of stone on stone. You have never owned a house. You have never had more than four walls and a leaking roof, a drafty shack patched with old boards, and the hope that the next storm will pass you by. Yet your hands have built rooms grander than anything you will ever know. Arched doorways, wide porches with carved balustrades, solid foundations that will outlive you by centuries. Still, you return each night to the same cramped quarters, the walls closing in, the air thick with exhaustion, and the collective sigh of a dozen bodies too tired to dream. Work is different now. The blocks are heavier, or maybe you are weaker. You cough up dust every morning, flecks of gray in your spit, and sometimes your chest tightens in a way that makes it hard to breathe. The overseer tells you to work through it, but what else could you do? He laughs at the sight of you doubled over, shaking with a fit of coughing, as if your pain amuses him. You're built like a stone, he says once, nudging your ribs with the toe of his boot. You do not reply. Stones do not answer back. At midday, your only break is a patch of shade behind a half-finished wall. The food is the same every day. Mush, sometimes a crust of stale bread, if the master is feeling generous, a dipper of water that tastes faintly of iron and old wood. You do not taste much anymore. Hunger is a dull ache, always present, but never sharp enough to override the other pains in your body. You eat in silence, surrounded by the others, all of you watching your hands instead of each other's faces. The sun beats down harder as the afternoon drags on. You wipe sweat from your brow with a sleeve already stiff with salt. The air vibrates with heat, with the steady rhythm of hammers on stone, with the occasional curse muttered under your breath. The overseer shouts at anyone who dares to slow down, his whip cracking as a warning. You have seen the marks it leaves, deep purple lines that never truly fade, stripes that cross over old scars like a grotesque lattice. You do your best to avoid his attention, but sometimes there is no avoiding it. Sometimes you simply move too slow, and that is enough. You are not only a mason, you are a quarry for your own suffering. The limestone wears away your fingertips. The sandstone cuts your knuckles open again and again. Some days, blood seeps from your wounds, soaking into the fabric of your shirt, dripping onto the blocks you lay so carefully. The blood dries black and flaky, impossible to scrub out. You wonder if the walls remember it. if some trace of you will linger after you are gone, more lasting than any name or story ever could be. The stones are unforgiving, but they are honest. They do not pretend to care. When you drop a block on your foot, the pain is immediate, sharp, a burst of fire that makes you gasp. The others pretend not to notice. You limp for days, hoping the swelling will go down. It never does. The toe grows purple, then black, the nail lifting away from the skin. You bind it with a rag and keep working because there is no one else to take your place. If you falter, someone else will take your spot. Someone younger, stronger, with hands not yet ruined by labor. Sometimes you think about what it would be like to be a stone, to be cold and unfeeling, to let water and wind wear you down slowly over centuries instead of years. Stones do not fear the overseer. Stones do not lie awake at night, wondering if their children will be sold to another plantation. Stones do not worry about tomorrow because they have no future to dread. It seems almost peaceful in a way to surrender to the inevitability of it all. You are not allowed such peace. Night falls, but you are not finished. The master wants to see progress before he retires to his dinner and his wine. Lanterns are brought out, flickering yellow against the blue-black sky. Shadows stretch across the work site, making the walls look taller, more imposing. You keep laying stones, fingers numb, eyes stinging from the smoke and dust. You have become part of the construction, another tool to be used up and discarded. When the work is finally done, the overseer dismisses you with a grunt. You shuffle back to your quarters, legs dragging, every joint screaming in protest. Inside, the others have already collapsed onto their mats, some still in their work clothes, too tired to undress. You sit for a moment on the edge of your pallet, staring at your hands. They are swollen, misshapen, the knuckles thick and red. You flex your fingers and wince at the pain. Sleep is slow to come, your body too restless, your mind caught on a loop of endless days and endless stones. You dream, sometimes, that you are building a wall with no end, the blocks piling up higher and higher until you cannot see over the top. On the other side, you imagine your family, your mother, your children, people you have not seen in years, their faces blurring together with every sleepless night. You call out to them, but your voice is swallowed by the stone, echoing back to you, hollow and empty. When you wake, the pain is still there. The cracks in your hands, the ache in your back, the tightness in your chest. The walls you build will stand for generations, but no one will ever know your name. You are the crack in the wall, the flaw in the foundation, the part of the house that everyone forgets until it finally gives way. You wonder, as you pick up your hammer and chisel once more, whether anything you do will outlast you, whether your suffering will ever matter. But there is no time to wonder, not really. The overseer's voice cuts through your thoughts, summoning you back to the day's work. The cycle begins again, stone after stone, crack after crack. You do not break the wall breaks you, bit by bit, day by day. You are the flaw, the imperfection, the piece that never quite fits. You keep working because there is no other choice, and the wall grows higher, and the cracks keep spreading, both in the stone and in you. It is strange how the years vanish. One morning, you notice your beard is streaked with gray, though you do not recall it ever being black. Your hands are still as rough as stone, swollen at the joints, crooked like old tree roots, but you do not remember a time when they were anything else. The walls you built stand tall now, shading the master's wide porch, cool in summer, protecting him from the world outside. He boasts of them to guests, solid as the day they were set, the best in the county. His guests nod, drinks in hand, eyes sliding over you like you are only part of the scenery, a post, a bench, a shadow. You are older than you have any right to be. Your body should have failed you long ago, and sometimes it seems it might. The work, though, never slows. There are new outbuildings to erect, a kitchen to expand, stables that must stand straighter than the last winter's storm. Even the cemetery behind the house, where white marble stones mark the passage of masters and their kin, owes something to you. You remember dragging the gravestones from the quarry, setting them upright, making the earth itself hold its breath and behave. The younger men watch you sometimes. They are stronger, faster, not yet broken in two. You see your old self in their shoulders, the way they throw their weight against the stubborn stone, as if the world will notice their effort and grant them something in return. You do not tell them that the world does not reward sweat. You do not say that most things built by hands like yours are made to be admired by eyes that have never bled or swelled shut. You do not say these things because you are too tired and because they would not listen. They must learn for themselves. You see changes that would surprise someone with hope. You do not remember when you stopped counting the days or the seasons. There were springs when the river flooded and the quarry disappeared under water, and you hauled wet stone, muddy and slick, up the bank, coughing from the chill. There were winters so cold your fingers split open, and you pressed them into the heat of your armpits just to remember they were there. There were summers that brought fever and flies, and sometimes you would stop and lean on your hammer, dizzy and dry mouthed, praying for a cloud that never arrived. Sometimes men fell and did not get up again, and you kept working because someone always did. The master changes too. He ages, grows slower, richer. He brings home a new wife, new children. Each child seems to need a new addition to the house, a nursery, a schoolroom, another porch for the evenings. Each time the order comes to you, more stone, more sweat, more hours. Sometimes, in the quiet before dawn, you stand in the yard and look at the house looming above you, every line and joint familiar. It is your work, your burden, your proof, your prison. You imagine for a moment what it would be like to live inside, not as a shadow, not as a servant, but as someone whose life matters. No one ever asks. No one will. Sometimes you overhear guests admiring the house. Magnificent stonework, one says. How did you find the men to do it? The master shrugs. They work well when you know how to motivate them. There is laughter. No one asks your name. No one wants to know. The stone is what matters. The wall is what matters. The house, the monument, the comfort, these are what endure, not the hands that built them. There are moments, late at night, when your body finally gives out and you lie awake in the darkness, that you allow yourself to remember what you have lost. Children sold away, whose voices you can barely recall. Friends gone. Some ran, some died, some simply disappeared into the endless cycle of labor and silence. Your mother, who taught you to patch a shirt, to crack a joke when the pain became too much, who sang quietly in the evenings. She is gone too, but sometimes you think you hear her voice in the creaking of the rafters. One night, in the deepest part of winter, the wind howls through the cracks in the walls, and you wake to the sound of a branch scraping against the roof. For a moment, you forget where you are. You feel weightless, almost free. But the ache in your joints, the rough mat beneath you, the hush of sleeping bodies all around remind you that you have not left. You will not leave, not until your body gives up and is placed in the ground behind the quarters, marked with nothing but a handful of rocks. No marble, no inscription, just a mound slowly flattened by rain and feet and time. You wonder if anyone will remember you at all. The house will stand. People will walk through its halls, admiring the columns, the smoothness of the walls, the coolness in the thick stone on a hot day. They will praise the builder, perhaps, but not the labor. They will never know the way your hands shook as you tried to finish the master's porch before a storm. They will never know that 100 little mistakes are hidden beneath the whitewash, that your blood and skin and breath are sealed up behind the surface, as much a part of the house as the mortar itself. Maybe one day a stone will shift, maybe a crack will run through a wall, and someone will tut and order repairs. Maybe, for a moment, a hand will brush the surface you shaped and wonder who put it there. But they will not know. No one will know. Your name will not be spoken, not at the dinner table, not in the master's ledger, not on the lips of those who live inside the walls you built. Even the other slaves will find their memories fading, replaced by the endless march of days, the next load of stone, the next overseer, the next pain. You think of this as you lie beneath your roof of patched boards, listening to the wind and the rain. You have nothing but the memory of what you built, and even that is slipping away, worn down by time and labor, dulled by exhaustion. It is a bitter comfort knowing that the walls will outlast you, that the work of your hands will remain when nothing else does. But even that comfort is hollow. You did not choose this. You did not wish for immortality through stone. In the end, all that is left is silence. The silence of the house at night, the silence in the fields at dawn, the silence inside yourself as you carry the last stone, set the last block, finish the last wall. There is no one to say thank you. There is no one to mark your passing. You are buried in the work, lost beneath layers of stone and memory and forgetfulness. Tomorrow, the sun will rise. Someone else will pick up the hammer and chisel. Someone else will bleed on the stone. The house will stand, the master will boast, and you, who built it all, will be forgotten as if you were never there at all. But somewhere, deep within the walls, beneath the plaster and the whitewash and the paint, your touch lingers, silent and invisible, holding the weight of history in place. And that is all there is. That is all there ever was.